Sure. So basically, in 1968, you had Nixon running for president as a Republican, and he's using tons of illicit money, committing treason, and getting the support of the most brutal dictators in the world, most of them, not all of them, to win the 68 election. And so that's the playbook of Donald Trump, right? And Nixon is then using this Southern strategy where you're able to hold the racist vote, but not being so overt that you alienate the middle of the road, the moderates, the professionals, the people that did not want to be seen at the country club as having voted for George Wallace. George Wallace was the openly racist candidate in 1968. Nixon figured, look, I can siphon a good hunk of Wallace's supporters, especially in the middle, and still get a lot of northern votes. And that Southern strategy was his way to get elected at the cost of hugely dividing the country, the same way that Donald Trump has hugely divided the country in the last 2 years. And so that laid the groundwork for what we'll talk about later, which is exactly how and why King was killed. But what most people don't realize, what I didn't realize until relatively recently, was that you can draw a direct line between Nixon's Southern strategy all the way to Donald Trump. In other words, this is not a coincidence that this happened. This is conservative Republican politicians using a proven strategy, building on Barry Goldwater's failed 64 strategy to turn it very successful in 68, even more successful in 72 when Nixon was overwhelmingly reelected, and then using it to elect Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and eventually Donald Trump himself, using these exact same tactics.
Wow. How overt was Nixon about this?
Well, perfect question. What Nixon did was, so instead of talking, even George Wallace was not using the N-word in public by 1968, because he had moderated a little bit, at least in public, because he wanted, more votes. So basically, Nixon would talk about things like busing, things like neighborhood schools, preserving your neighborhood, that making it very clear that supporting fair housing laws was not going to be at the top of his list, making it clear that integrating school districts and metro areas was not at the top of his list. And to say, when I say it's not at the top of his list, he made it pretty clear he wasn't in favor of those things, but he would moderate his language so he could get those moderate votes. So, and in the same way, we haven't heard Donald Trump in public use the N-word. There are unconfirmed reports he does in private, but in public, Donald Trump does not take George Wallace's words. He literally takes Richard Nixon's words, like law and order. Nixon was the law and order candidate. Once somebody who traces right back to these things became Trump's campaign manager, Trump became the law and order candidate, which again is a code word for racism.